The date is September 19th, and how's everyone doing? This is the Melvin Live Show, and today we are episode 116. And today I want to do something a little different because I want to share with you some of the best books that I have read. But instead of just sharing with you what's so great about this books itself, the few things what I want to do. Number one is I want to share with you how these books came into my life at which juncture of my career as well as life. The other aspect is how did this book actually change the way I think and what was the shift? And then the third thing is as a result of that shift, what were some of the actions that I took? And so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you here today. So if you have got a favorite books, a book that really shaped the way you think and you act, please share it with me in the comments below. And in case you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel because this is where you will get more of the mindset, skill set, and tool set of building a 1% 1 million or digital business. And so if you want more videos like this where I go deep dive into some of the thinking in this area itself, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. All right. And so let's jump right into it. Now, I must say that number one book that has absolutely changed my life, changed the way I think, changed the way I feel, and changed the things that I do. That number one book I will share it with you towards the end of this video itself. But let's talk about the first book that truly changed my thinking. All right, and this book is none other than the unauthorized autobiography of Steve Jobs. And as you can read from the title there, it's the second coming of Steve Jobs. Now, when I got hold of this book, I was at this juncture where the .com that I was working with, that I was working in as the early stage .com CEO, I was going through one of my most major failures at a point in time because the environment just wasn't right and all the odds were just against us. And not only we were not able to raise funds, we were also not able to get clients because the entire scenario just stacked against us. And this was in way back in 2001. And so when I got a copy of this book itself, the book really helped me shift because at a point in time, you need to understand that I just graduated 2 years ago, and I graduated with a master's degree from one of the best university in Singapore. And I was on that projectile of, yes, I am going to do great things. I'm going to make it big. And I left my civil service job and started to work in, started to work in this early stage.com itself. And so it was a little bit, I would say, probably a little bit, it's an understatement. Um, it was an issue for me because I was really grappling with the fact that have I failed? Right? Have I failed? Is this an epic failure for me? And so when I was faced with the fact that the company was not going to be able to survive, and I would be out on the streets, um, I was at that juncture of wondering if this is going to be the end of my career. And that's when I picked up this book. And the one thing that really drove me to, that really changed my thinking at the point in time, was the time when Steve Jobs was actually booted from the very company that he has created, which is Apple, right? And he went on to find to found Next Computers, and in the whole process itself, he kind of knew that he screwed up. He kind of thought that he screwed up big time, and that he kind of let the people down. And but despite all that, he was able to rethink and to re-strategize and to go on the path of next computers, which of course, history has it that the software that was created for the next computer went on to become the Mac OS that led to that tremendous growth later on. And so when I read that, and of course looking at that in retrospect itself, it really gave me that different lens that, hey, with every failure itself, you can learn from it, and you just have to keep pushing on, because first and foremost, no one's going to take pity on you, and so you have to be in control of your own life. And that's exactly what I did, and that helped me propel myself to a next level of effectiveness, whereby I started my own consulting company, and I was doing great, and I went on to do lots of great stuff with line consulting, and it allowed me to work with schools and all this great organization there. So that this book itself, in fact, I've read this book like three times, right? Three times. I hardly read a non-fiction book again. And I would even say that many of the non-fiction books that I have, many of them I don't even finish them. But this was the only book that I not only read it once, twice, but I read it three times. So that's how good it is. So this book helped me rethink my failure, or quote unquote failure, and helped me refocus my energy and my thinking, that helped me make that next leap in my career. So that's book number one. Book number two is this little book here. It's called The Art of Making a Difference. Now, you probably have not heard of this book. If you have, and if you have come across this book, please leave a comment and let me know that you know this book itself. Okay. Now, so this book, it's a really really interesting book. I mean, this book is written by an English gentleman called Andy Gilbert, and Andy Gilbert is the founder of this organization called Go Man. Now, Go Man actually stands for Go Make a Difference, and he wrote this book, and this book became the key thing that he would give to his prospects, and and kind of give them the framework that this book comes with. Now, so when I got this book, it was when I started my own consulting company, and I met with a little bit of a setback in the first 2 years of setting up this company, and this was when I met with a group of people who actually brought this framework from the UK back into Singapore. And the whole idea of it was that they would want to be expanding and using this framework to go and teach organizations, public sector, so on and so forth. And so with this framework itself, we actually went on to work with people like the Ministry of Education, the Housing and Development Board, um, the SAF, Air Force as well. And it was a tremendous opportunity because it gave us inroads and it gave us the ability to go into industries and companies that we previously never had the opportunity to. And I remember with this book itself, I would say that, I actually went to prison because of this book. I was able to set up an appointment with the prisons officer and to share with them about learning and growth, typically using the GOMET framework to help the prison officers with their thinking. Now, this book was crucial because it was the first time I was introduced to this concept of setting goals, of being able to look at when you have a goal, it is not just you alone who is going to pursue the goal, but how you could enlist other people. And so in this book itself, it actually has a very interesting um, activity that you can do, which will tell you currently, based on your current effort, what is the likelihood of you achieving your goal. Now, of course, it's arbitrary, it's not scientific, but it gives you a sense of where you're at. So with this book itself, I really was able to pin down what are my goals. It truly transformed the way I think about goals, goal writing. It goes beyond the SMART goal, and it enabled me to go from the goal itself and to be able to map out a series of actions that I can take, the people that I can enlist, as well as to ask myself, what is my level of self-confidence in achieving that goal, and what can I do to increase my level of confidence in achieving that goal. It's a tremendous book. It gave me so much tools in my toolbox, and this book helped propel me to the next level in my consulting practice. So, you definitely want to check out this book. All right, it's called "Go Make a Difference," and Andy Gilbert is the man. Now, this next book that I read was the first book that I read when I decided that I would want to become a Christ follower. So, a little bit of a backstory is that I was, I was not a believer prior to 2010. And so when I one day we happened to get invited to church by a friend of my wife, and so in the process itself, I actually decided that yes, I would want to accept Christ as my Lord and Savior. And with that declaration itself, I decided to invest into that whole journey of becoming a Christ follower. Of course, before that, there were some interesting things that happened, which, that's for another time and another place. Um, so when I started on my journey as a believer itself, I was like, okay, being a Christian, it's definitely more than going to church and saying a prayer or saying grace before you eat. There has to be more than just being a Christian. And that is where I came across this book. And the subtitle of this book is "What on Earth Am I Here For?" And at this point in time, you need to understand that it was 2010, and I was midway in my career. I was doing fairly well. I am a couple of years in the marriage itself, and we were beginning to start planning for a family. And so at the point in time when I accepted Christ and I wanted to become a Christ follower, one of the things that I felt I had to sort out was myself. I need to know what is my purpose on earth. And more importantly, what is this purpose that God has given me? I felt that I needed to know that or at least start on that journey to understanding my purpose before I, I'm ready to have kids. Because I felt that, when I have kids, I need to be able to guide the kid in terms of realizing their purpose, realizing their talents, realizing what God has planned for them. And so, when I read this book, it was a 40-day journey. And in the 40-day itself, I must say that by day two, I was already feeling transformed. And so this book really transformed the way I think about who am I, and and what am I here for. And that would lead me to really question many of the things that I do, and by extension of that, what line consulting will do, because it became the bedrock of the value system that I embrace, and the organization would embody as well. And so it's a great book for me. It's a book that definitely has shaped my thinking and shaped the reason why I'm doing business, and really to drill down into the fact that we can not only just make a profit, but we can also be purposeful, and we can align the purpose to God's will as well. Right. So that's the book number three. Now, book number four, it's a favorite of mine. When I came across this book, it was already fairly popular. A lot of people were talking about the book, and there was a lot of buzz about that. And what kind of drew me to that was because, as many of you know, I am a major in economics, right? I actually graduated with a master's in specializing in economics, specifically on productivity. And so when I caught wind of this book itself, what really caught my attention was the ability of the authors to correlate economics principles to things that are happening on the ground. Because when we studied economics, many of the theories and models were stylized models. In other words, it's a model laden with lots of assumptions, and many of these assumptions, of course, do not apply in real life. As an example, you would almost never find a market, or any market, which is as close to a perfect competition market in real life itself. And so what these authors were able to do was that they were able to bring out, or better still, use economics principles to explain things that we experience, as well as social inequality, birth control, crime rate. It was fascinating, and it kind of renewed my interest in economics itself. And what it did was, it it triggered me to go back to my economics training, to look at all the different models, to look at the different principles of economics, and to see how I could actually use what I've learned in school and apply it to my business. And so many a times when I developed programs itself, it was with this philosophy or this principles in mind, and it really helped me to be able to develop programs, as well as uh, consulting projects for clients itself. So this is a great book, and besides, it's a really entertaining book to read. So that's Freakonomics. Now then, the next two books are actually books that I kind of discovered later on. um, this one is by Paul Arden, and this is an absolutely fabulous book. I actually saw this book at the airport when I was coming back from a speaking engagement in Bangkok, and I was totally intrigued by this book itself. Now, you need to understand that at that point in time, I stopped buying physical books. Right? In fact, I have it here. Right? At the point in time, I stopped buying physical books because I just thought that the idea of buying a physical book and to be bring it there, bring it with me is just inconceivable. And what I have been doing is I have actually always been buying ebooks on a Kindle. But when I saw this book itself, of course, it was available in the Kindle as a Kindle edition, but I just cannot. I just don't think that this book would be good to read in a Kindle format because of the diagram, because of the artwork that's being used, the different typography and all that. It's a book that you want to read it, on paper. And so the the reason why this book really, really, truly intrigued me was it challenged the many ways that I think about things. It challenges my assumptions, it challenges my mindset. So this was interesting because, as I was just mentioning to you, book number 4 was, going back to economics principles, where we are, filled with assumptions and principles and all that stuff. But this book really came about and challenged the way I think about things, and even asked me to think about it in the opposite way, right? And so this was the book that really allowed me to rethink the way that I do things, because for a good 14 years I was purely just looking at how I could sell my time for money, doing consulting project and wanting to bid on bigger projects, um, projects of bigger value, for example. Um, and beyond that, I was just not able to see a different model altogether. And of course, when read this book, when I saw this book itself, I was already on the path of challenging all my assumptions, especially with how I earn an income. At the point in time, I was already, in addition to working with schools as well as being a trainer, I was being a consultant. I was going on speaking engagements. I was even creating my own online courses. So this would t- kind of stretch me even further. And so this is another great book that I have read. Now, the last book that this is a very recent book itself, is this book called "Turning the Flywheel" by Jim Collins. Now, I'm sure many of you have read the book called "Good to Great." This is a monograph to "Good to Great" itself. It kind of dive deep into a particular topic, which is the flywheel, turning the flywheel itself. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of the flywheel, you should definitely check that out in Good to Great, because that is where it really have, all the gems and all the thinking by Jim Collins is just phenomenal. Now, what really struck me about this book was the idea of thinking about not just putting in place systems, but actually putting in place blocks that build upon one another, that lead you to create a huge impact. So, you know, many people in this current stage is talking about growth hacking. How am I able to get, many people to subscribe to my service, or how many users I can have in the shortest period of time? What is the thing that I can do? Um, and with the exception of a few, many of these companies that go on this growth hacking, it's probably not going to be a company that it's built to last. And with the concept of the flywheel itself, you will see companies, right? Companies like Amazon, companies like Southwest Airlines, how they are able to use the concept of a flywheel and to be able to create an unstoppable force that allow them to become uh, dominating in their industry and in their field itself. And so that led me to um, think about looking at many of these marketing systems or marketing funnels that you have. And in the process itself, I've actually discovered a total of close to 30 flywheels that I've seen. In other words, companies that has kind of withstood the test of time, especially after the COVID, right? Companies that have withstood the test of time and have gone on to do from good things to great things. And in fact, in the you know subsequent episodes coming up, what I'll do is on the weekly basis, I will look at one of this flywheel and I will do a deep dive into what these flywheels are and how, what are the components of that flywheel, as well as what is it that you can replicate and why is it that some aspect of it you are not, it's probably not possible for you to replicate being a one person 1 million or digital business itself, right? And so these are the books that has really, truly changed my life. Now, of course, like I mentioned earlier on, there is one book in particular that have completely changed my life. And if you have not guessed it yet, that one book that has completely changed my life is the Holy Bible. Now, I became a follower of Christ and a believer in 2010, and so many things have happened ever since that I just cannot count the number of blessings that me and my family have been blessed with, and even my extended family, like my in-laws and my parents, we're all been blessed as a result of what I have gone through. And of course, with that, I also want to be able to help others who have been adversely impacted by this pandemic, whether it's in whether if they are displaced from work or they have been seeing struggles in their own businesses. you know I and a few of us, we would definitely love to help you. So, if you've got a business and if you want to kind of tap on our own network itself, please leave a comment, and we'll definitely, you know um, uh, get back to you on that. And so that truly, it's the book that really changed my life, because so many things has happened, and I'm just glad that it has allowed me to to be blessed with so many things that I just cannot um count my blessings. And so those are the books, my friends. What are your books? What are the books that have changed your life? What are the books that have changed, more importantly, changed the way you think? And as a result of that, change the actions that you have taken. What are those books for you? If you have those books, share with me by leaving in the comments below. And with that, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.